Okay, I am so excited for the guest that we have here today. We have Elaine R Davis, Realtor extraordinaire. She is the broker associate and team leader with the Elaine R Davis Real Team at eXp Realty. Welcome, Elaine.
Thanks, Veronica. So happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here on the Martini Network show. So, Elaine is also mom to Elliott. For those of you who don't know, he's one of my favorite children, and she is also a friend to many here in our community. I love Elaine. We've known Elaine forever and ever, and Elaine has a very dynamic story. She has a lot of incredible things going on, and the one thing is, Elaine was this hospitality dynamo for over 20 years. And Elaine, I would love for you to share the story about what made you decide to flip after over 20 years in hospitality and come into the real estate arena.
Absolutely. So, I had an amazing job and I had a 401k, I had a pension. I worked for a very reputable company and it was super scary, but I wanted something different in life. Number one, I wanted freedom to make a huge choice. And that choice was to have my son 100% by myself. So I think back and it was God, and I didn't know what I could do, that I could transfer my skill set and have a career that I would be passionate about, but also would afford me the opportunity to make as much as I needed to in the timeline, in the day to day. And any entrepreneur knows that if you want to be successful, you're working 80 hours a week, right? And maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time it is 40, 60, you're on 24/7. So I decided I was going to take a huge risk and I was going to become a realtor. And what happened was I just did one step to my plan at a time. The first thing was I wanted to buy a house. Well, my realtor ghosted me. And when my realtor ghosted me, I was interviewing for brokerages. So I signed up with the first brokerage that I could and beat out 8 offers on my own house. And I was like, if I can do this for myself, I know I can negotiate better for other people. So I was able to quit my job, which was super scary, 6 months into practicing real estate. And it was a wild ride. I worked 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., almost 7 days a week. I was exhausted. But I think any entrepreneur knows that when they start up their business, they're going to be working a lot. They're going to be successful in the beginning. So here I am. I have my son, I have my business, and I am dedicated to both of them equally.
You sure are. I mean, you are one of the hardest working realtors I know, and you're so professional. It is 100% of your focus for your career and then 100% of your focus on your son. So you balance that so well that you equally are able to give them both the attention that they need versus, someone who maybe just does real estate part-time, that can maybe just take a couple deals a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is your career and you 100% focus on your clients. And I think that leads us into the next question. So I think that's part of what makes you different as a realtor. But tell me, in the marketplace, in the landscape, there's a lot of real estate people, right? So what makes you stand out? What makes you different? Why should somebody work with you?
I think the biggest thing is, I am passionate, and the way that passion transfers is that I want to empower other people. So I use communication, education, statistics, whether it's a buyer or a seller, I load them with information and I explain it. I just don't throw it at them because I know everybody's not doing real estate and 50 transactions a year every day. I get that. So I really strive to make sure that they understand what their options are and what the consequences to their choices could be, right? Because if I can't empower somebody to make one of the biggest decisions of their lives and give them the education they need to make that decision, then how am I helping them? And my passion is to help people, right? And I feel like real estate is definitely that opportunity to educate and empower people to change their lives.
And I agree. I think that that is such an important decision, and it's not to be made lightly. And I think that, sometimes people think, well, realtors are realtors are realtor, and that's not true. So I really wanted to drive that point home on, having someone that really is knowledgeable that can educate you and how important that is. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, I know that as professional as you are, anyone that has the opportunity to work with you is very, very fortunate and blessed. But I would like to, what is the approach that you have, as far as buying or selling with your clients? What is that approach that you use that helps things to be more stress free?
Good question. So I have most of my business, about 95% of it is referral based. So I am working with people that either already know me or they know someone that knows me. So I think that my professionalism has always kind of stood out and has followed me tremendously in this industry. But what I like to do is, again, empower and educate. But I put together, a buyer's guide and checklist. I put together a marketing plan when I'm listing. And I really like to have difficult conversations before bad things happen, right? Because, and I know bad is a very strong word. However, things happen in real estate. And when you've done enough transactions, the likelihood of these things happening is very high. So let's talk about what your decisions look like and what the 1 to 5 consequences could be to those decisions. Even if you don't like what you're hearing, it's a lot easier to stomach before the emotions get involved. And I really think having the template and that kind of checklist or plan in place beforehand gives somebody something tangible to understand the process, number one. And then number two, knowing the things that could go wrong before. And then, of course, you hope. And I do everything to mitigate those things from going wrong. However, you just can't control it. Having those difficult conversations before the emotions, before they happen, really gives somebody the insight. The emotions still come into play when they're happening, but they feel more knowledgeable, right? So maybe the stress isn't as high because they didn't just hear about it for the first time and it's a foreign concept that they've never been introduced to before. So I think that it really helps in making it a little less stressful because let's face it, real estate is stressful. I mean, you have so many different situations. People are trying to sell so they can buy the dream house. People are moving out of state. People are moving into a new state that they've never lived in before. And I think, having community partners as well allows me to really give a solution, whether they're moving to the area and I can educate them on the area, or something goes wrong during an inspection and I need to recommend a roofer, a plumber, whatever it may be. I have all those community partners to help the buyers and sellers.
And that makes a big difference. I think, and that touching on something that you said there, having the game plan and addressing the monsters before they show up is so vital. And I could see how that would make a tremendous difference in the buying process or the selling process for someone. And we're but I really have one more question that I kind of want to throw out there because I know you do some different things too in this arena. Normally, a realtor specializes in a buyer or a seller, and there are some realtors that do both, and you are one of those realtors. And I would love to know how in that process. Tell me more about that, handling the buyer and the seller.
So I think it makes me extremely valuable to both parties because I can see both sides, but also I can share with the other side the trends that are happening in the market, right? Which is super important to understand what the buyer is thinking and what the seller is thinking, especially right now where we're in more of that neutral trending towards buyers market. You want to make sure that sellers understand what are the buyer's expectations right now, right? How are buyers going about it? I mean, a couple of years ago, buyers looked at one house and they put in an offer. Sometimes they weren't even looking at houses and putting in offers. Now they want to see sometimes 10 houses before they make a decision. It's important for a seller to understand that trend. So I love working with both. I lean more towards the listing side, but as I mentioned earlier, I have a very strong referral based business. So I have past employees that used to be in hospitality as servers, bartenders. Now they're nurses, firefighters. And I'm so honored that they want to work with me and I can use my negotiation skills to get their offers accepted and to save them money and also make sure that they get into a wise investment for themselves or their families.
Yes, I love that. And having strong negotiating skills is so important. So being a broker owner, usually, you're handling more of the listing side. And I think that's so amazing that you are getting into the buyer side as well and giving them that confidence and security. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the Martini Network show. It's such a pleasure to spotlight you and your business.
Thanks so much for having me. I loved being here. You're amazing.
Aw, and I adore you too. Well, thank you again. And we're going to go ahead and end this recording, but we appreciate and I look forward to sharing you with the world.
Aw, thanks, Veronica.
Bye.